Yo guys, what is going on? It's your boy Jamestheace. Welcome back to another video. Today we are talking about a topic that I think needs to be brought to light when we start talking about low-level PvP and the return of it, because a lot of people are coming back in a queue. A lot of people are realizing that there's some things going on that people have been crafting behind the scenes that is kind of troublesome, and it's not really being talked about because it doesn't really affect PvP above level 100, because there are just better options to go about than some pieces of pay-to-win gear that are kind of destroying the integrity of low-level PvP, just making it generally unfun to play in. The meta is becoming like super toxic, and I'll explain in just a second. But basically, what is happening, right, is that there is a piece of gear that some ice wizards have basically taken up into their arsenal, and at a certain level, I'm not sure which, but this piece of gear, and I'll go ahead and show you what piece of gear it is right here, these spooky carnival boots, just for level 90 alone, right, these boots give 21 universal damage and 81 universal crit, so it's already a good offensive piece of gear. But so as if that already wasn't good enough, this piece of gear also gives 2 copies of Frost Minotaur, and I want you guys to go ahead and look at this card, and I'm going to display on the screen a picture of a normal Minotaur, right? So it's like, it's kind of close, right? Until you realize that the Minotaur I just displayed on the screen is a Solar Surge Minotaur. And you might be thinking, okay, so what is the point of this, right? So if you haven't seen any low-level PvP, you might be a max PvP head, I don't really know. You know, there's nothing wrong with that essentially, but when it comes to low-level PvP, it's been apparent, if you've been seeing any matches, or maybe you've been doing matches yourself, that Ice is abusing this card. And there's some other things that are feeding into this, I'm gonna call it undefeatable Ice meta, that it doesn't make sense with a lot of the other changes that KingsIsle has been making to the game, and Ice has just been abusing it, and it's a serious problem because KingsIsle is focusing on max level 1v1 at the moment, which there's nothing wrong with that. Obviously you have to work from the top down. I don't disagree with that methodology, but it's basically plaguing low level PvP, and Ice is using this card as a gimmick with certain like high offensive stats to basically make it so you're a one-shot target even when you're choosing the best course of counterplay, which the only best course of counterplay is if you're a myth wizard, spam earthquake, and that's not really effective. Obviously Enfeeble TC is no more. Not everybody has access to things like TC disarm, so that's not really a good course of action for most people. And obviously earthquake for anyone other than a myth wizard is going to cost way too many pips before you can be one shot with this attack. So what do? You basically double shield, but mind you, Ice has another 5 pip spell that pretty much does just as much, if not more damage than this Frost Minotaur will do to you with about 2 blades a bubble, or 3 blades, or maybe even 4 blades, right? That's the amount of rounds that it can take to kill you. And mind you, just for a benchmark, right, at level 60, an offensive Ice running this strategy can get upwards to 120 damage. At 90, they can get 140 damage. Now, obviously, the new damage cap has gone up, so that does make things a little bit worse for people that are versing this strategy, but it's gotten ridiculous. And the fact that this is stronger than a Solar Surge Minotaur, and Ice gets 2 copies, and they can pretty much get around deck failing by running a small deck, is kind of ridiculous. And this isn't the only thing that Ice is using to basically earn free rank off people who don't crit Dryad after each hit with max pips, which is pretty much the only counterplay I see to winning against an Ice who's running all damage, all pierce, and running Frost Minotaur even at low levels like 60. There are also pets that these Ices are choosing to run that give some cards that should not be PvP. If you think about the way that KingsIsle has been balancing certain cards that are OP, that they've now reinstated in the game as trainable, but are still no PvP on pretty much every other pet than ice pets. I think even the ice bird pet is still PvP, right? But things like the fire beetle, its cards are no PvP. Even the one raptor fire pet that gives a fire beetle is also labeled as no PvP. Brown spider on the brown spider pet, and I forget the other spider pet that gives brown spider, but both of those pets have cards labeled no PvP. Yet this Lumi pet, which gives 2 Icezillas, and this, I'm not really sure what the name of it is, but it's a Dragonspire inspired pet. It also gives 2 Icezillas, and they are the pre-patch version of Icezilla that is TC banned, no PvP. Yet these pets still allow you to use them in PvP. And what players are doing is they are putting full offensive stats on these pets, and they are going in and using them as backup if Ice Minotaur and Frostbite spam does not work. And with the amount of health that Ice has at most levels with meta gear, you're looking at an opponent that has at least 1k to 1.5k to sometimes even 2k more health than you. I think the only way that you wouldn't be completely outclassed in health is if you were life. And that's pretty much the only school that has like cheese counterplay to this strategy. And that's pretty much like Crit Satyr with max in and out possible every single time they hit you, and triaging every single time that they frostbite if you double shield, which is the meta counterplay to this. Icezilla does an obscene amount of damage, which is why it was no PvP. Frost Minotaur, which at a certain level starts giving 2 copies from the boots from the Spooky Carnival bundle, is stronger than a normal Minotaur. And Frostbite is the same amounts of pips, and they can spam that as well if you decide to double shield. Ice has quickly climbed the ranks yet again at low level, but this time it's looking like they are undefeatable if running this strategy. And at level 60 with meta gear, again, they can get upwards to 120 damage and 15 pierce. And yeah, an Icezilla with 2 blades will put you out if you don't have at least a shield and around 45 resist. And I think even then you become one shot after the fact. And Ice already has natural high block because they're ice. So if you're trying to wail on them with their already, you know, outclassed health compared to you, you're probably going to get one shot, right? Because you're choosing to go offensive instead of go on the defensive. So they've not only out healthed you, they've out damaged you, and you don't have the rounds to compete with that. And I mean, yeah, it's just been plaguing low level PvP. It's kind of ridiculous. I definitely had to bring light to this because I've done a few matches of 60 and 90 PvP, and I've seen it also happen, and my friends are also having this same ordeal happen to them, and it just isn't fun. And you know, with the recent PvP updates, a lot of low level people are coming back into queue, and they're like, yo, what is this? Like, I can't even enjoy low level PvP that's supposed to be popping now because ranked is fixed, right, so to speak, and it's only getting better. But these things are happening, and there's no counterplay to this strategy. So what is the solution? A lot of people, you know, they do play ice, and some people might use a variation of maybe the pet or the boots, but they're not using it to the point where it's absolutely unplayable, right? The match isn't absolutely unplayable for the opponent. So how do we go about comfortably auditing / nerfing this strategy, where if all pieces are being used, it is absolutely like completely unfair, and it is pretty much a wash? You should probably flee if you know your opponent is using this strat. I think first of all, right, it doesn't really make sense for the Spooky Carnival boots after a certain level to be giving 2 copies of Frost Minotaur. On top of that, it doesn't make sense that even though it's an item card and it has item card buff, or an item card buff, so to speak, it should not be completely outclassing a Solar Surged Myth Minotaur. And I definitely think that if things like Brown Spider and Fire Beetle are going to be no PvP on pets, I think that things should also follow through with the ice pets, and Icezilla should be no PvP on any and all pets that have Icezilla. So just for comparison's sake, to show you guys that not only is Frost Minotaur stronger than a Solar Surged normal Myth Minotaur, but Deadly Minotaur is doing 65 and 600 second hit. Frost Minotaur, as we've seen, does 70, so it's doing 5 points more on the first hit, and the second hit, Frost Minotaur is doing 620, so it's doing 20 points more on the second hit. It is a ice spell, and it is doing more than Deadly Minotaur, a card to be perceived as like basically the thing that was making death like super overpowered even at max. So you can start to see at a lower level where you have less cards, less even now, because Shatter is banned from PvP and Feeble is banned from PvP, Aftershock is banned from PvP, how it could be really aggravating for someone that has significantly lower health than a max trying to fight something that is stronger than Deadly Minotaur against a class that has more health than death and can blade stack just as effectively. It's ridiculous. And the same goes for Myth. Myth does not have the amounts of health. The health difference between Myth and every other school is definitely not the same as Ice. Pretty much the strat goes, if you shield, you get Ice Minotaur. If you weakness, then they're just going to wand because they're running a small deck anyway and have all their wands enabled, period. So they're just going to wand and you're going to give them more pips to combo. If you double shield, then you get obviously frostbited, and then if you don't shield at all, you get 4 pip Icezilla, and you are going to get one shot. And now that the damage cap and critical multiplier, or whatever it's called, has been raised, Ice is going to be doing more damage than ever with this strategy. I mean, all damage around period is going to be greater, but Glass Cannon Ice is probably the best possible school and strategy you could be running, like with any combination of any school and any strategy at any level below 100. Like, if you faced it, you know. If you haven't, then you will know, because this strategy will undoubtedly become more popular as time goes on. And as of right now, I guarantee you there is zero counterplay. There is no get good, learn how to beat it. There is none of that. The opponent literally has to delete every single card in their hand in order for you to win if they're running a small deck and have Frostbite, Enchant, Frost Minotaur, and an Icezilla pet. So that is pretty much what I wanted to bring to light to you guys. I know that this is only going to continue to make low PvP that much more unbearable for people that don't like Ice or don't like strategies that, you know, tend to be one shot. I know that Ratbeard also has said in the past that he's not a fan of the one shot meta. But yeah, I don't see a lot of people talking about this problem. It definitely needs to be brought to light, and if anyone's going to talk about it, I guess it would be me, since I've kind of been like the self-proclaimed spokesperson for low level. So hopefully we can see something done about it, whether, you know, the boots stop giving 2 copies, or the card itself gets audited or nerfed, or, you know, Icezilla actually follows through with the audits that have been happening to other pets, you know, with certain no PvP restrictions. With all that being said, I am curious what you guys have to say about this video. Do you agree? Do you not agree? What do you think about this strategy? Do you think it's broken? Have you faced this strategy? I know some of you have. Let me know your thoughts down in the comment section below. Leave a like if you have agreed with anything I said in this video. And as always, I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace out.